When I first saw the little craftsman-style house sitting at the end of Willow Bend Road, I knew I'd found the place I'd been looking for. It was tucked away behind old oak trees that stretched like watchful sentinels over the narrow lane. A white porch wrapped around the front, faded but still sturdy, and the yard smelled faintly of pine and freshly turned soil. After years of HOA nightmares, I'd promised myself, never again. No more rules about mailbox colors. No more fines for leaving my trash cans out 10 minutes too long. This was going to be my piece. I bought the property outright, cash from my retirement savings. I'd spent 40 years working as a contractor, building, repairing, making other people's homes better. It was time I fixed something for myself. I checked every legal record, confirmed twice that the street sat outside of the neighboring HOA's jurisdiction. Willow Bend was independent, a little leftover sliver of the original town before the developers moved in and plastered everything with cookie-cutter houses. I liked that. I wanted something with soul. The first day I showed up with the keys, I was humming to myself, carrying a box of tools in one hand and a bag of groceries in the other. The air was cool, late afternoon sun glinting through the trees. I could almost hear my late wife laughing beside me. She loved old houses. She would have told me put flowers in the front windows and hang the wind chime we bought in Sedona. For a moment, I felt like I was home again. Then came the sound. Sharp, irritated heels clicking on asphalt. I turned and saw her, short blonde hair, big sunglasses, clipboard tucked under one arm like a weapon. She was power walking straight toward me from across the street. "Excuse me," she called out, her tone already sour. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I blinked, confused, just unlocking my door. I said, "This is my house." Her jaw tightened. "Your house? No one told me it was sold. You can't just move in without HOA approval." I frowned. "There's no HOA here, ma'am. This property isn't part of your association." Her lips pressed into a line so tight it could have cut glass. "That's impossible. Every home on this street belongs to the Lakewood Residents Association." "Not this one," I said calmly. "Check your boundary map. Willow Bend ends right there." I pointed to the cracked line of pavement just past the mailbox, the legal edge of their little fiefdom. She crossed her arms, giving me the once-over like I was some teenager caught sneaking into her garden. "You can't just say that. Who are you, anyway?" I reached into my jacket, pulling out the deed papers I brought just in case. "Name's Mark Douglas. Bought it last week. Here's the proof." She didn't take the paper, just glared, nose wrinkling like the very air around me offended her. "We'll see about that," she muttered, stomping back across the street toward her house. Of course, the biggest one with perfect hedges and a polished Lakewood HOA present signed by the mailbox. I shrugged it off. You learn to ignore people like that after a lifetime of working around know-it-alls. I unloaded my boxes, started cleaning, and by evening I had the windows open, music playing softly, and a pot of stew simmering on the stove. The next morning, I woke to the sound of car horns and voices. Peering outside, I saw Karen, that was her name, as I'd soon learn, standing in my driveway with two other neighbors, all of them pointing and gesturing wildly. They had phones out, snapping pictures like paparazzi. I opened the door. "Can I help you folks?" Karen spun on me. "You need to leave this property immediately. You've been reported for trespassing." I laughed, thinking it was a bad joke. "Trespassing? Lady, I own this place." "Not according to our records," she barked. "No sale was approved. The previous owner didn't have permission to sell." I sighed, realizing logic wasn't going to cut it. "You can check with the county clerk. Everything's legal." She smirked. "Oh, I already did. Funny thing, our system doesn't show your name anywhere." That's when it clicked. She wasn't talking about public records. She meant her HOA records. The arrogance was unbelievable. "That's because your system isn't the law," I said. "You don't run this property." She stepped closer, pointing a manicured finger at me. "You're going to regret this attitude." Then she took a picture of me on her phone, right in my face. "I'm documenting this for the board." The other two neighbors, husband and wife, both looking uncomfortable, mumbled something about maybe checking with the county before walking off. But Karen stood there another full minute, scribbling on her clipboard like she was writing a police report. For the next week, she made it her mission to harass me. Every day there was something new. A note taped to my door about unauthorized renovation noise, a printed warning about yard noncompliance, even a demand that I remove unapproved structures, meaning the bird bath that had been there for 20 years. None of it made sense. None of it was valid. But she didn't care. On the 5th day, I came home from a hardware store and found her standing inside my yard. My gate was open. She was measuring my porch with a tape measure. "Hey!" I barked. "What do you think you're doing?" She jumped, clutching her chest. "You scared me. I'm performing an inspection." "You're trespassing." "I'm the HOA president. I have authority." I walked up slowly, locking eyes with her. "Not here, you don't. This is private property. Outside your jurisdiction. Get out of my yard." She puffed up like a pufferfish, eyes bulging. "Don't you threaten me. I'm calling the sheriff." "Go ahead," I said. "They already know me." She stormed off, phone in hand, muttering something about dangerous people moving into good neighborhoods. That evening, 2 sheriff's deputies arrived. One of them, Tom, was an old friend of mine. We shook hands right in front of her as she watched from her porch with binoculars. "Sorry, Mark," Tom said with a grin. "Got a call about a break-in at this address." We figured it was her again. "Again?" I asked. He nodded. "You're the 3rd homeowner she's accused this year. She thinks she runs the county." Karen marched over, furious. "Officers!" This man broke into that home. The owner moved months ago. He's been living here without permission. Tom raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, Mr. Douglas owns this property. I've seen his paperwork." She blinked. But it's part of the HOA. Tom chuckled. "No, ma'am. That's where you're wrong. Willow Bend's outside your HOA map. Always has been." Her face turned crimson. "That's ridiculous. We maintain the entrance, the landscaping, You maintain your side of the street," he corrected. "Not this house. You've got no authority here." She started shouting then. "You don't understand. People like him." She stopped herself mid-sentence, realizing how it sounded. Everyone went quiet. The air thickened. Tom's partner, a younger deputy, spoke softly. "Ma'am, if you keep harassing homeowners, we'll have to write you up for filing false reports." Karen glared at me like I just robbed her of something precious. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Then she stormed off again. For a while, things were quiet. I spent my days fixing up the place, repainting, retiling, rebuilding the porch swing. It was peaceful, even with her glaring at me from across the road whenever I mowed my lawn. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally accepted it. Then came the day everything boiled over. It was a Sunday morning, warm and breezy. I had just returned from the farmer's market, keys jingling in my hand. I unlocked the front door, humming an old tune. That's when I heard her scream. "Stop! Criminal!" I turned, startled. Karen was running down the street, phone in hand, screaming like she'd witnessed a robbery. "He's breaking in. Somebody call 911. I blinked. "Karen, it's me. I live here." She ignored me, shouting louder. "He's forcing the lock. That's not his house." Neighbors peeked from windows. A few came outside. The whole street watched as she circled me like a guard dog. I stepped back onto the porch. "Look, I can show you." "Stay where you are," she shrieked. "I've got video proof of you entering illegally." Within minutes, a patrol car pulled up. The same deputies, Tom and his partner. They got out, shaking their heads before she even started talking. "Officers," she yelled, pointing at me. "Arrest him." Tom sighed. "Karen, we've been through this." "He broke in." He unlocked his own door. "No, I saw him twist the knob. That's breaking in." Tom rubbed his temple. "Karen, twisting a knob is how doors work." The crowd of neighbors chuckled quietly. Even the deputy had to cover his mouth to hide a grin. Her face twisted, her voice cracking. "You're all making a mistake. He doesn't belong here. That word, belong, hung in the air like a bad smell. I felt something inside me stir, a mix of anger and pity. Karen, I said quietly, you've been so busy trying to control everything around you, you forgot what community means. She froze, blinking at me. You can't build peace by policing your neighbors, I continued. You can't find safety by treating everyone like a threat. You're chasing power because you're afraid of losing relevance. The crowd stayed silent. Even the breeze seemed to pause. Her lip trembled. For a moment, she looked almost human, tired, small, lost. But pride wouldn't let her admit it. You'll see, she whispered. I'll get you out of here. The deputies gave her a final warning that day. A month later, she got cited by the county for harassment and unlawful trespassing. Apparently, I wasn't the only one she'd been bothering. She was forced to step down from her HOA presidency for health reasons, though everyone knew the real story. As for me, I stayed right where I was. I finished fixing up the porch, planted my wife's favorite marigolds along the fence, and even built a small bench by the oak tree where I'd sit in the evenings watching the sunset. The peace I wanted finally returned, slow and steady. A few months later, a new family moved into Karen's old house. They were kind, quiet folks, a retired couple with 2 grandkids who loved feeding the birds. One afternoon, the woman came by with a pie and said softly, "We heard what you went through. Thank you for standing your ground. People like her made this place hard to live in." I smiled. Sometimes standing your ground isn't about winning, I said. It's about reminding people that decency still matters. We shared a laugh, and for the first time since moving in, I felt the neighborhood breathe again, like the weight of fear and control had finally lifted. Now, when I unlocked my door, I still remember that day Karen screamed "criminal" at me. It's funny how some people see threat where there's only change. But I also remember the lesson it taught me. You can't control every square inch of life, and trying to only builds walls between you and the world. The truth is, real community doesn't need rules carved in concrete or presidents with clipboards. It needs understanding, forgiveness, and the courage to let others be. So every morning, when I open that same front door, I take a deep breath of the cool air and whisper to the quiet street. Home. Finally home.